Most families choose a nursing home on one of the hardest days of their lives, and that was true for me. I vividly remember the day my mother called and said that she was no longer able to take care of my dad. He had Alzheimer's disease and she cared for him for years, but he was bigger than she was, and he managed to get out of the house some without her noticing a couple of times. So she called me, she and I took him to the nursing home, and when she took care of the paperwork, I walked around the facility with my dad. He was confused, and I remember he just wanted to get out of there, and it was heartbreaking to leave him there. So I understand what many of my clients go through because I've been through it too. I'm David Terry, a nursing home abuse and neglect attorney based in St. Louis and handling cases all over Missouri and Illinois. And for the most part, we were pretty fortunate. My dad's nursing home experience was not horrible, but I've heard hundreds of nursing home horror stories. And today I'm going to show you what to actually look for, the things that the industry rarely volunteers, so that you can make a more informed decision that many families don't get to make when they're placing a loved one in a nursing home. So here are some of the recommendations that I have for you. First of all, visit more than once, look at everything, and go unannounced. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see families make is trusting the scheduled tour. So when you tour the facility, the folks there, they'll show you the facility at its best. They may only show you certain rooms or steer you away from places that aren't that nice. And if there are fresh flowers, for example, at the nurse's station, they may be there for you and not as an everyday occurrence. You may see extra staff visible during your tour. That is almost certainly a show rather than reality. Years ago in discovery in a lawsuit, I came upon some notes of a required meeting for the staff that just left me speechless. This particular place, they had a code. Something like, Carol, you have a call on line 1. Carol, please pick up line 1, which had nothing to do with Carol having a call on line 1. That was a code that they would put over the loudspeaker to all the staff members. And that code meant, hey, there are prospective residents or family members in the building. Be seen, look busy, and be nice. I'm not kidding. 100% true. That really happened. Now, all that to say, you can't believe what you see when you are seeing what they want you to see. I recommend that you take the tour, but insist that you see everything. The activities room, the shower room, the dining room. Go into the kitchen. Look for mouse traps or mouse droppings. Look to see that the doors that are supposed to be locked actually are locked. And use all 5 of your senses. Are the floors or the walls sticky? Are residents in clean clothes and well-groomed? Or are they dirty and unkempt? Pay attention to the smells. Are the call lights going off for long periods of time? And finally, I try to go around during a mealtime, whether it's lunch or dinner or breakfast, and ask to eat some of the food that they're giving to residents. Now, spring this request on them at the last minute. Don't ask ahead of time so that they can prepare something for you specifically. Get what the residents are getting, and more likely than not, you'll be disappointed in the quality of the food. And then next, I would recommend that you visit more than once. Go more than just that tour and go at different times. At least one visit should be completely unannounced. Walk in like a family member coming to see anyone. Just wander around the facility. Look like you've been there many times before and see if anyone pays attention to you. I've done that before, and I've wandered around an entire facility with no one stopping me or asking me why I was there or can they help me? None of that. Now that gives you clues on how long staff members have been there. So trust your instincts. If something feels off, it usually is. The next thing I would recommend is dig into their staffing and don't just look at the star rating. Now, star ratings are a good starting point. Those are on medicare.gov/nursing home compare. They're a good starting point, but not an answer. Use them to narrow the list and then do your own homework. One of the single most important factors in nursing home quality is staffing. How many employees are actually on the floor on each shift relative to how many residents they're responsible for. A facility can look great on paper and be running dangerously thin on staff. And then ask these questions and be firm, direct, but polite. How many residents is each CNA responsible for on the day shift? What about the evening shift or the overnight shift? How many nurses are on the floor overnight? How often do you use agency staff? How many CNAs have you hired in the last year and how many left? That's getting to the turnover percentage. I've seen facilities where the turnover rate is almost 100% in a year. Maybe that's why none of the staff recognized me when I wandered through the facility. And then ask, how long has your director of nursing been here? How long has your administrator been here? Now, that last cluster of questions is about stability. A high turnover rate means that the people caring for your loved one don't really know them. Constant agency staff often means inconsistent care. And when you have a high turnover rate and increased agency staff, that's when things like medication errors happen. Repositioning just gets skipped. Bed sores show up and residents will fall more often. You can also do something most families skip. Look up the facility's inspection and complaint history. Whether you are in Missouri, Illinois, or any other state, this is public information. You can find documented deficiencies, things like falls, infection control failures, medication errors, pressure injury failures. Facilities don't volunteer this stuff during the sales pitch, but it's there if you look for it. Next, watch the residents, not the building. Now, many nursing homes look great on the outside, and they can be quite beautiful. But just because a nursing home looks great doesn't mean that it is great. So when you visit a nursing home, focus on resident life, not square footage or building beauty. Now, here's some of the red flags that I would take seriously. If you see residents who are left alone for long stretches with no engagement or interaction, if you see call lights going unanswered, watch for the same call light blinking for 10, 15, 20 minutes, or even longer. Are staff members rushing residents through meals? Are they feeding residents too fast, or just not feeding residents at all? Now, some residents can't eat by themselves, and some nursing homes, even the ones with beautiful buildings, are too short-staffed to provide regular help to residents who need it. And sometimes they don't get fed, and that's when you start seeing malnutrition and weight loss. Look for soiled clothing on residents, or unchanged bedding, or residents who just look unkempt if their hair's a mess, and residents who seem withdrawn or fearful around certain staff members. Now look, neglect often hides behind pretty walls. I've had cases where the building was spotless and the lobby was recently renovated, and behind those walls, a resident was developing serious bed sores because nobody was repositioning. You can't judge a facility by the lobby. You can't judge a facility by its beauty. You can judge it by what's happening to the people inside. So next, I would ask questions that nobody warned you to ask. A good nursing home will welcome hard questions. The bad ones will try to rush you, distract you, or give you vague answers. Here's what I'd ask before making a decision. What's your protocol when a resident hits the call light at night? And what's the expected response time? And does your electronic medical record system record those call light times? How do you prevent pressure sores? How often do you reposition high-risk residents? And do you document repositioning? How do you prevent a fall? What happens after a fall? Who gets notified and when? How do you monitor for weight loss and dehydration and malnutrition? How do you train staff to recognize and report abuse and neglect? And then ask to see their written policy for handling resident and family complaints. Now, there's a myriad of other questions you could ask, but those are some good ones. And remember, you're not being difficult when you ask these questions. You're being responsible. You're being an advocate for your loved one. And the facilities that resent these questions, they're the ones that you may want to reconsider before making a decision where to place your loved one. Now, what happens if you see problems after placement? Sometimes you choose the best available option, and then you start noticing that things just don't sit right. You see unexplained bruises or sudden weight loss, pressure sore that supposedly just appeared. Oh my gosh, we hadn't seen that before. Or even medication changes that have no explanation to you. Treat these things like a warning light. Don't ignore it just because you want things to be fine. You can't will them to provide quality care, so pay attention. Now, here's what I recommend that you do if you find yourself in this situation. First, and I've said this before, document everything. Photos, videos, dates, names, what you were told, etc. Second, report it up the chain inside the facility. Talk to the charge nurse. Talk to the director of nursing, then the administrator. Put your complaints in writing whenever you can. Third, if internal reporting doesn't get results, report them to the state. In Missouri, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services is 1-800-392-0210. In Illinois, Illinois Department of Public Health can be reached at 1-800-252-4343. And look, if there's an immediate danger to your loved one, just call 911. And if you're worried about retaliation or being pressured Talk to a nursing home attorney. Even one conversation, clarify what your rights are and what options that you have. So look, choosing a nursing home is one of the most stressful decisions a family can make. I've lived it, and the system isn't designed to make it easy for you. But when you know what to look for and what to ask, you can dramatically reduce the risk. So once your loved one is placed, the next thing you need to understand is something called the care plan. That's a written document that spells out exactly what the facility has promised to do for them. My next video, What is a Nursing Home Care Plan, breaks down what that document is, what it's supposed to contain, and why it often becomes a critical piece of evidence when something goes wrong. So go watch that one next, and I'll see you over there.